Welcome to this Wise Women Roundtable here in the end of 2022. We'll be looking at the energies as we approach the December solstice. I'm Cayelin Castell here with Sarah Castell and Nalini, and we're very excited to share with you some of the insights and ways that we have been looking at how to navigate this sort of what I would call wild and crazy time. And something that I've been really tuning into most of this year, really looking at the Uranus North Node conjunction that was exact back in the end of July, early August. Mars was there, but they had been moving into that conjunction for several weeks, like months actually, since I want to say like March. Or April, they came within 10 degrees. So they're going to stay within 10 degrees, the North Node and Uranus within 10 degrees until March of 2023. And they're still really close. So we just had an eclipse with the North Node conjunct the moon and total lunar eclipse that was wild and crazy and unpredictable energy. Unpredictable is the word that has been just coming up for me over and over again as I've been thinking about what's going on. And things that have been unpredictable for me, like I've had all these plans and then they get reset, not because I reset them, but because something happened outside of my control that caused them to be reset. And people may be having that experience with that going on. But the thing that I really have been feeling, and I even did a whole video about this, and I'll put it in the show notes, is how Uranus in the North Node is about resetting Earth's destiny. So and this eclipse just magnified this reset that's been going on for the whole entire planet. And there's a phrase that I was connected to or came to my awareness some years ago when I was going through another really unpredictable time. And that was trust what is and accept what is and trust the universe. Accept what is and trust the universe. Accept what is and trust the universe. And that really helps me when I'm in a time where it's like we can't necessarily predict what's going on and what's going to be next and how is this taking us into a new way of being that is really aligned with the soul of the earth, as well as our own personal destiny and our own way of being with the earth at this time. So I just highly recommend using that as a mantra: trust what is and accept what is and trust the universe, whatever that's about. So, and something that is always true is life is unpredictable, often unexpected, and we're living in very unpredictable times. It's not like there's a set anything. Things are changing very quickly, very rapidly. And as we move from this time into the moving towards the December solstice, we have all these unpredictable events that are taking place. Mars is retrograde in Gemini, the trickster, coyote energy that helps us to remember not to take ourselves too seriously. Plus, it just went out of bounds. So it's outside the boundaries of where the sun can rise and set on the horizon. So if we think of from, say, one solstice to the other, there's this place that the sun can go north and south on the horizon. At the equinoxes, the sun rises at the exact east and west point, rises and sets at the east and west point. But at the solstices, it's either at the furthest north, June solstice, or the furthest south, December solstice. And there's only so many degrees or so many places. Like if you set stones to watch the sun where it's rising and see, or look on the mountain and say, okay, always at this solstice, it's rising here. And always at this solstice, it's rising here. And always at the equinox, it's rising here. And it'll be at any one of those points along the way. It never goes beyond that. So we could say that's kind of defining our reality or how we are experiencing this reality. But the planets can go beyond that. Now, this only happens when they're in Gemini, Cancer, or Sagittarius, Capricorn. And so we have Mars in Gemini outside the boundaries of the sun until May. It's because of its retrograde, it's staying outside the boundaries of the sun for a really long time. This is really, truly something that hasn't happened in a long time, at least 47 years. I haven't really looked that up yet, so I'll probably be looking that up and doing something more about that later. But in any case, just know it doesn't happen very often, that it could be outside the boundaries of the sun for so long. Every couple of years it'll be in Gemini, but it's only for a couple months, and it's only in certain degrees of Gemini and Cancer that it can be out of bounds. So we have that, and then we have Mercury's going out of bounds. Let me just see. I think I wrote it down. It's going out of bounds. Where is that? Oh, here we go. It's going out of bounds on November 23rd. And it stays out of bounds until December 21st, until the solstice. So we've got Mercury out of bounds, which is already a wild card anyway, and now it's going to be an even wilder card, being outside the boundaries of the sun. And Venus goes out of bounds December 1st to December 24th. So they're going to be out of bounds together. And what's interesting about the date that Venus is going out of bounds is that it's also technically the date that Venus is coming back into the evening sky, rising as evening star. So coming out of the underworld where she's been since September. So we're still in that until we get to December 1st. Now, not everybody will be able to see Venus in the evening sky because she's far away from the Earth. She's coming out from behind the sun. And so if you have a low horizon line, maybe you'll get to see her. If you you have to have a low horizon line, and also be able to maybe see in the sunset glow. The glow of the sunset is probably where you'll see her. I have seen Venus at the time when she gets to be 10 degrees from the sun, but not always, because she's a little more elusive in the evening sky. So she'll begin her journey. And what happens is when she comes into the evening sky until she makes her first conjunction with the moon, she's in an alchemical between time. So it's like she's preparing to come to make that ascent out of the underworld, to get to that first gate where she, which will happen on December 24th, where she's reclaiming her a healthy root chakra. She's getting her royal robe back, according to the story of Inanna. And so we have this to look forward to. Like, this is something that's coming up, but Venus is going to be out of bounds as well. So she's in this alchemical place of this place that's unpredictable and unexpected. We don't really know what's happening. And we have these planetary energies that are adding to how this time is so unpredictable or unexpected, or something new coming in. And we really ideally can hopefully let go of our attachment to how we think things should be or shouldn't be, and allow ourselves to just be with this new energy that's coming in. And we did talk about this quite a bit in the last video that we did. And a new epoch coming online at this particular time. Well, it's accelerating. Definitely accelerating. So and then what was the other thing I wanted to say about this particular time? There's a lot of Neptunian energy and Uranian energy also. So because we've had Uranus with the North Node, I've already mentioned, and Neptune's going to station direct on December 3rd. And that creates a still point. It creates a time when things are, especially in the realm of Neptune, where we connect to the field of all possibilities, where anything is possible. So when anything is possible, what do you choose? Well, there are certain things we know we wouldn't want to choose, so we can take that off the table. But but if we want to create a new world where it's really defined by greater love and compassion and kindness, and supports all life, all humans, all life, plants, animals, everything that has existence, has awareness, has consciousness. So that's what we can be tuning into and hopefully energizing, because we're in this sort of between space where it's not this, it's not that, it's not going towards something or coming away from something, or it's just in this place of where all possibilities are are accessible, like connecting to pure source energy. There we go. So that is what I have to share about this. So I'm going to now pass this off to my priestess sister, Sarah Estelle.
Thank you, Cayelin. Thank you. And you've explained there, or shared there, a lot of what I've been feeling, put some names. I didn't know that about the out of bounds planets, and I can feel that Neptune energy actually very interestingly in my body and what's going on around me. And so I also loved what you said about accept what is and trust the universe. So I was really being with that just over the last few days, actually. So it's a really nice mantra to take us forward. So in that vein, what I would like to do today, or what I'm being asked to do by the Nature Kingdom, is to share with you some frequencies, some messages from the Devic Kingdom that can help us in this kind of birth canal stage where we're just starting possibly to come out into this brand new place. And maybe some of us still feel that we're emerging and are stuck, and we're going to be all different places probably, and that might change from minute to minute, hour to hour, or day to day. And so interestingly, just before we started to speak here, about an hour ago, I suddenly got really clear that certain trees and their blossoms wanted to be shared. So I've got some pictures here. I think one of the most important flowers, and I couldn't find the picture actually, so I'll just explain it for this time. And I'm going to talk about flowers as in essences, or tree essences, that everybody can get really easily because most of them are from the Bach range or Bach range. Some people call them BACH. You can get them pretty much anywhere in the world. This weekend I was actually with some of my flower essence students, and we did a deep dive together, and we were like, which is normal when you do these kind of things, with lots of questions, and how do we do this, and how do we do this, and what about that? And at the end, I wanted to give us all the experience of taking an essence, and it was up to them which essence they took, but most of them decided to take Cerato, which is from the Bach range. It's CERATO, and this is the one I couldn't find the picture of, but it's a tiny little blue flower. She's completely enchanting, not that different from the blue of your jumper. It's not quite the same thing, but it's kind of that frequency, Nalini, the blue you have on. Anyway, so virtually everybody took that, and we all took 20 minutes out to kind of let it go through our bodies. When we came back, it was kind of hilarious because nobody wanted to speak. We were just like, and we just kind of sat there and smiled at each other, and all the questions had disappeared. And we were just like, one of the ladies said, I'm just so super zen, I'm so relaxed. And we just all sat there and talked about how zen and relaxed we felt. And I share that because it's just such a testimony of how nature can help us come out of that sort of not that anybody was being frantic, I don't mean that. It's normal to ask questions, particularly when you're in class. But all of a sudden we were like, whoa, that's different. And we weren't necessarily sleepy or any switched off. We weren't yawning or anything. We were just like present and not really wanting to speak about anything that, the stuff. So that was the first one. So if that resonates with you, Cerato is such a beautiful being for that. Another one that is different, but does the same kind of thing. I hope you can see that all because it's nighttime here, so I've got lights on. This is a white chestnut flower. Gorgeous, creamy white flowers. I can remember when I lived in the UK and I used to get off the train and walk home through a park. And when you came off the main road into the park, there was a kind of avenue of white chestnuts. And all of a sudden you came in. I used to always think to myself, why is it so quiet when I walk into the park through that avenue? Because it was all noisy with the traffic. And then one day in spring, I realised why. It was because I was walking through white chestnut trees. So even when they weren't in bloom, white chestnut is about listening through the quietness. So, if you read the repertory, it will say when you can't sleep and if you think too much and mind chatter and all that kind of thing. So that's the kind of 3D bit, but the more 5D bit is just kind of listening and being present and being in the feminine energies. So I think that could be really helpful with Serato to just be with what is and stop the head questioning too much. This one here, this is Elm. A really good way of always remembering Elm is because of overwhelm. So whenever we filmed, which is all the time right now, certainly I do quite a lot, we can remember Elm to just her energetic effect is to kind of bring us, when we're overwhelmed, it's because we're usually too connected with too many things. Certainly that's my experience of it. So it kind of like brings us back under our skins so we can just be present. There's a bit of a theme there. And then there's two more. This is also a batch essence. This is aspen, little catkins. Aspen trees are really famous for, I'm just trying to think in French. The word for an aspen is trembler, which is to tremble. It's just an extraordinary word because aspen trees, even in the summer, when there is zero wind, their leaves shake. So they're really good. Yeah, they're the magical trees. They really are. So aspen is really good. I heard somebody talking about, not about aspen, but about this earlier. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, about how at the moment we're really being, because we're moving into this new world, this new frequency, new earth, whatever we want to call it. And we have no idea what's going to happen. No idea from 1 minute to the next. And so we're in a space where we have to trust what we don't know. And how can you trust what you don't know apart from, what you were saying, Cayelin, accept what is and trust the universe. We have to go into trust. So aspen, even if we look at the sort of 3D repertory thing, we'll say fears of the unknown. It's like when we're frightened or fearful, but we don't know why. We just don't know why. And that could be super helpful right now to allow us just to not be afraid in the dark. So it actually makes people quite emotional just talking about that, so I probably need some aspen. And then the last one, this is an Alaskan flower essence. Also, well, obviously comes from the United States because it's Alaska, but I think it's fairly widely available in Europe too. I love this little flower, and it's just about trust. The late Steve Johnson, who is the producer, still is, even though he's in spirit now, of the Alaskan Essences, always used to say the safest place on earth is an open heart. And so this essence is just so pink and beautiful and just asks us to trust and to open our hearts. And what I hear a little bit as I share her message, Cayelin, is what you said about envision the potential. Anything is possible. So we may not have the powers to actually, draw in the actual physical experience. I mean, who knows? I want a new man or a new job or a baby or something. It may not be not necessarily about that, but it's about calling in that frequency of anything we want. Yeah, so that's, I think, what I would like to share from nature, and I hope it's been helpful to help us navigate this interesting phase. So, Nalini, I'm handing over to you for your beautiful wisdom.
Thank you, Sarah. Actually, thank you both. It's always lovely to sit here and sort of bask in the wisdom of my sisters, where we each have different expertise, different ways of articulating how Source moves through us and the world around us. And I think it makes all of us a little bit emotional. It's just how beautiful that wisdom is, like the flowers, like the trees. It comes through differently in different forms. And it's always such grace, such a gift to share. So thank you. And what I've been experiencing, Cayelin and I were talking for a couple of minutes because I'm always early, um, and saying how this yesterday's, it was only yesterday's eclipse, which is the end or the bookend of the eclipse window. We're still in it, of course. How intense it was. And then when Sarah joined us, she echoed that with things that are going on with her. And what I found yesterday was an add-on or an adjunct or something adjacent to, the word's not coming, what I've been feeling ever since I recently took a trip, and I was able to reground my own energies, the way that source comes through me in a way that was really much needed, very much needed. And what I felt yesterday was a furthering of that, a deepening of that, where something just coalesced within me. And this was on the day of the partial solar eclipse, the beginning of the eclipse window. It just coalesced within me like a lightning bolt, but that came from inside and just did this. And then it has stayed there. And this is not something I haven't felt before, but it's a very different form of this just brilliant white light. And it is stillness. It is the essence of stillness itself, which is where all wisdom comes from. The essence, the ability to be that still place, like Sarah was talking about with the Serato, or with the out of bounds planets. I always kind of like them when they're out of bounds. I think it's fun, because it takes the rational mind on a roller coaster ride someplace else. And if you go with that ride, it can be all kinds of ways. But if you stay centered and stay present in the stillness, all that other stuff, it's a little bit like watching cartoons out of the corner of your eye. It's sort of like, yes, that stuff's out there, but that's not where I live. And what I was reminded over this time very, very strongly was that we each have this stillness within us. We each have this magic, this uniqueness, this wisdom. And it's not about worthy, it's not about deserving, it's that this is what we are. This is where we live. And this is where we need to live. It's what we require, each of us in our own way. And what was brought home to me rather drastically through adventures at Heathrow was that I live in a very different world, a very different expression of reality than most people. I have lovely sisters who live close by, but in their versions, but it's very, very different. And I forget about that. We all forget about that. We're in our own consciousness, our own awareness, our own day to day, and we don't necessarily notice how different everything has become, and how with this eclipse window, with the out of bound planets, with what Gaia is herself is traversing through the photon belt, through the edge of the galactic sheet. I mean, there's all this that's going on that is unprecedented, is almost overused at this point. We don't know. It's the not knowing. It's the not knowing. And what I have found is that the not knowing brings each of us home to what is known through us, the wisdom that is, always has been, and always will be known through us. So some would say we know more than we know. That gets a little mental for me, but that's the essence of it, where it's what comes through us, what moves through nature, what moves through the part of nature that we are, the fractal of the natural world that expresses as our bodies, our wisdom, our lives, our voices, has its own, not knowledge, but knowing, its own essence. And the more that the unknown is traversed in the seemingly outer, the more we come home to that, the more we come home to ourselves. One of the crystal beings that I've been sort of traveling with for months now is the smoky quartz, which is all about bringing home here. wherever you are, and etc. And I took a little traveling companion with me of one of them. And at a certain point I was asking, because I do this every so often, like, would you like to be reseated here? And it sort of considered it for a couple of days and then very emphatically said, no, I travel with you. And the message wasn't about the stone, it was about that flavor of the inner home. It's like, no, I don't need you to seed me anywhere. Gaia's doing fine with that. Source is doing fine with that. Thank you. I don't, I travel this way. And so the deepest thing that has happened through me, in me, for me, and for all of us, I think, in this time is that finding that deep home within. And as my sisters here are saying, using the stars, using the celestial energies, using nature's energies to help find that stillness. And what came through me actually on June 5th, 2009, I had a hardware reset. They call it a stroke, and what held me through the whole thing was this just thrumming through my body. And there was no real verbal instruction, but the energy pulse was, everything is all right. You are always taken care of. Everything is all right. You are always taken care of. And it was so strong. It was vibrating my whole body. And if I had to go back and look for subtext or something to talk about, it was more like, do not let your mind move from that place. Do not let it do gymnastics. Do not let it move. And my brain was damaged, and it wasn't, I mean, my mind was sort of going along with that, and it wasn't really going to go do these other things, but it was just so strong. And that, I think, is that feeling is the essence of that. Accept what is and know that you're taken care of. And I'm not going to be able to quote your words exactly, Cayelin, but like just that feeling of, this is what's known within each of us, through all of us. We are all the crystal or the leaf or the flower or the branch or the limb of a tree. We are all part of this. And we each have our fractal that expresses itself uniquely and preciously and perfectly. And that's what we are being blended, thrown, tossed, sieved, threshed, whatever's going on all at once. We're being honed to that point. And that is what will serve us and will serve all that needs to be sustained going forward. So, my 2 cents.
Oh, beautiful. So we will leave you with these thoughts, and we will join with you again before the solstice. So stay tuned.